Okay, I think this is working. Okay, so I think, yeah, I just had a nice bath. Anyway, I was thinking more about my a documentary that I think would be kind of cool. I believe in reincarnation, and there's a lot of proof of it, but I don't actually remember anything from when I was a Leah. I don't remember anything, but it would be interesting if there was, I don't know, if you could film something and just see, like, if there's any tests that can be done to see what I remember, because I feel like if if it's possible to, like, live for eternity, the only way to do that would be to die, be reborn, and just be reincarnated over and over again, but to somehow gain memory or access to your past life. And I don't know if that's possible. And I don't remember anything about Aaliyah's life. I only thought I was her because of a voice in my head saying she's me, she's me. When I was trying to analyze her songs, there was this, she's the next me, or she's me, or something like that. It was quite faint back then because the voice wasn't as strong as it is now. But yeah, that's why I thought that I was her, that she was her, that I was her. And when it comes to Madonna as well, I do think that she was Marilyn Monroe in her past life. I mean, okay, she looks very similar, and there's a lot of styles that are similar. But does she, like, remember anything? Or if you showed her pictures of where Marilyn lived, would she pick up or remember? I tried to ask my sister some questions. I first showed her the picture of the castle, saying, do you remember this, or do you remember this picture of yourself? And then I showed her the castle, and she said it reminded her of the Trinity College. Her husband went to Trinity, to Cambridge University. She went to Anglia Ruskin, which is like a side college. But yeah, they stayed in a place which looked similar to that. And because it was called the Trinity, and Sophie again might be doing something where she dies, where the partner dies and is reborn in her stomach, father, son, and the mother, or whatever. But yeah, and the Holy Spirit, which is the, I don't know if it's not really the Holy Spirit that does reincarnate. Well, it is. It depends on what. I think if my higher self is deliberately done something, then that's the ghost that's done it. Whereas the Holy Spirit is, I think it's something that connects with me, but it's also something that connects to a lot of people, and it points them to me. But it's also connected to the Matrix, and but I feel like a lot of how Sophie has come from her past life as, she was the 14th century, so it was a very long time ago. And people weren't very smart back then, and she's not very smart. But then again, if that was her past life, then of course she wouldn't be very smart. I'm sure someone who was reincarnated from 100 years ago, they're going to have a much better education than Sophie. And I think she was educated. I think the Google thing did say that she was educated, but their education from the 1400s would have been absolute shit. And I think she did like to read. She was always a big reader. And I'm dyslexic, so I don't know. I can't process words when I'm reading it. When I'm writing it and saying things, I can do it quite well. But when I'm reading, I don't know. I can't do it. The words start flying around the page. But yeah, I was thinking, what else would prove, like, if there was like some sort of film, or I don't know what's going to happen to her in the future. I know that something needs to be done to stop her from just having babies after babies. I feel like if you're sexist, if you're a man who sort of thinks women as sex are nothing, you're more likely to come back as a female in your next life, because it's kind of like a punishment for feeling that way. And if you're a female and you hate guys, you might come back as a male just because of that. But or unless, of course, you hate them for an actual reason, like I do. But I was trying to think if there's a way. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, and suicide might be an option, to be honest, because I just she's not thinking straight. And I think if even if the social services say that Sophie shouldn't look after this new baby that she has, and if my mum gets it, I can imagine it would just be a couple of months before she gets pregnant again, because I don't know why she's doing this, why she feels I think if you're not sexist, then guys who like sex or souls that like sex more should come back as males because it's the best way to like prevent the population from getting too big. Guys can have sex as many times as they want and they're not going to get pregnant. Women, however, if they have sex too many times, especially unprotected sex, they will get pregnant and they will have babies with multiple guys, and it's not going to be good. That's not how it should be, and therefore making sure the souls that like sex the least should be female. That's sensible. But at the same time, with 8 or 7 billion people in the world, and it seems to be increasing every day, it's probably hard for the Matrix to work out which are the ones that like sex more and which ones don't. Back in the 1400 or 1500, 1600, back then, sex was very much a taboo and stuff. I think Sophie was fine when she was with George, her husband, her old husband, because I think in her past life she was taught to believe that women should just kind of find a partner or maybe marry young, like a lot of them did, and then just stick with their partner and just do what their partner says. And I think she was a consort as well. So in her past life, I think that's what Google said. So I think that's why her relationship with George worked so well, because she kind of established this, George makes the decisions, George makes all, and because he was quite smart and I don't know, he didn't want to have kids for the first 9 years that they were together. She just went along with whatever he wanted, and that was partly why it worked. And then they tried for a child, and I don't know. I don't know why he didn't see. I think Sophie gained more confidence and then started like wanting more control and more rights, and then started becoming more bossy. And maybe a similar thing happened in her past life as Margaret, whatever the Annuit or whatever the surname is. She might have started off just being like a sort of passive wife, and then as time goes on, she developed more confidence, and then did something that aggravated the Catholic and Christians to war over each other. And I don't think she really cared because of a certain heartlessness or a lack of caring. And I think that's what happened. And today I was trying to show her. I showed her a picture of the castle, saying, "Do you remember this?" And she was like, "Oh, yeah." Well, it looks like where she stayed at the Trinity College, where they lived for 2 years. I think she stayed in. Yeah, I think she was there for actually the whole 3 years, but she did have a different second accommodation in the first year. And then she thought it was silly paying for that because she never stayed there. She only ever stayed with George, and basically was like side by side with George for such a long time. But yeah, when that relationship ended, I felt like she just had no sense of control or over herself or anything. And I don't know what went wrong. Like, I guess George might say she had a mental breakdown, and I think that's true. But at the same time, I feel like it probably was always there. It just never came out. I know Brittany's has gone through I think she's gone through a similar thing. Although I don't really know when Brittany's proper mental breakdown happened, because I know she did the shaving thing ages ago, but I don't think that's when she started going mad. Like, I think it was a lot later, but it was probably a slow process of change and things getting worse. But yeah, I tried to get some questions from Sophia. I told her, well, the reason why I'm showing you this castle is because I think you were this person in your past life. And as soon as I said that, and then she just started talking to my mum, and I was asking her more questions. What do you think life was like back then, or just general questions. Oh, look, this is what they thought of you back then. Do you think you're like this? And she was just talking louder and louder to my mum, not wanting to hear anything that I said, had no respect for my opinion or my belief, or it was just like, I'm not her, I'm not talking to you about this, and I'm going to now ignore you and just yeah, I'm really fed up with her, and I don't support her in any way. But it would be interesting if because she doesn't respect me at all. But if someone who she might respect would ask questions, not say that we're asking these questions because we're trying to work out like what you were like in your past life, but maybe ask her a question. You can, I don't know what you say. Say maybe it's like a hypnotherapy stuff, and then you just ask her questions. It'd be interesting if there'd be, I believe she was that person. and she might be able to give an insight as to what life was like back then, or maybe things that happened, or I don't know. That's the part of the experiment. I don't know what she'll say. I don't know what she'll remember. She might not remember anything. Likewise, I might not remember anything about Aaliyah's life. That doesn't mean I wasn't Aaliyah. It just means that I literally don't remember anything. But if I can bring back memories from me being Aaliyah, or if Sophie can bring back memories of her being I feel like I do have some memories of me being Eve and a cave woman, but I feel like that's not really a memory. I feel like it's more like a vision or something. But I don't know, if it'd be interesting if you can find a way of tapping into these visions. And then everyone might be able to remember what their past life was. And I think that would be such a cool world where, when you get to a certain age, you start having visions of your past life, and you can try and like work out who you were, or what had happened to you, or because it explains why you are the way you are. Your past life explains things that you are. And I think this is something that people don't realize when they're finding a partner. Some people just think, oh, she's pretty, I'm hot, I'll have sex with her, and they don't think of it in any deeper meaning. And the deeper meaning is much better. Thomas did seem like a nice guy, but and he seemed to really like her. I generally believe that there was a lot of care there. I feel like Elizabeth was a bit under a spell, and if what he felt towards Sophie was the same way I felt towards Martin, then it's no surprise he killed himself, because I wanted to die every day when I liked Martin, because I liked someone who didn't like me the same way back, and it was pretty awful. And I can, if he really liked Sophie, and Sophie was giving nothing back, like just saying little one words and not really expressing any passion towards anything, I can understand why he'd be depressed. And when I try and think about Sophie and why is she like this, where does she get this coldness from, I think it was because she had a really good life as a queen, where she would have had nannies look after her babies, and everything would have been done for her, and she would have been seen, all the servants would have looked up to her. And if she wanted to slap a servant or treat them like dirt, they would have to put up with it. And that's kind of how, I just had a vision of her literally just slapping one of her servants because she spoke too strongly towards her. And so I'm trying to get visions of the things that she might have gone through, and that is one of the things that just come through now. But yeah, she wasn't a nice person, and I think she did get more and more moody and more stroppy Sophie. But yeah, it's interesting to think about these things, because you can learn something more about people if you can do that. And I think if Thomas would have seen what I saw, he would have stayed away from her, because he would have realized, wait there, it's better to be in a relationship with someone who actually likes you the same way back, and not someone who's kind of only with you because you're the best of the 3 or 4 options that she's found or whatever. And he also needs to ask more questions about her past, her current past. What relationships you've been through. If someone's showing signs of just being in a long-term relationship and then just moving on very, very quickly, or sleeping with 3 guys in the same week, that was another thing that happened once. If someone's got this kind of mentality on, then you have to think, well, if they've treated these people like that, then how do I know they're not going to treat me in the same way? But yeah, I think so many people here just don't think about these things. They just look at what someone's looking like on the outside. Oh, they're pretty, they're hot, yeah, we'll do them. And they don't think about it, on a more serious level. And it doesn't always have to be serious. It sometimes can be fun, but it's not going to be fun if you end up getting someone pregnant over it. So, or if or if you find that you do end up wanting more from that person, only you realize that actually that person's not capable of liking you in that way. Because she, on my sister's perspective, I think she had such a good life back then, and now she's like a nobody compared to what she was. And therefore, I think she's finding it hard to appreciate things in this life, and she just wants everything to just fall down on her lap. And when it doesn't come down on her lap, she's, not happy. You know, she thinks that my mum's a bad mum, and often it says that and is quite rude about it. I am too, but that's only because I'm so much more intelligent than her and I don't want her to be my mum. But I think with my sister, it's more just not that she's super intelligent, but just that she had a much better life before, and she just expects it to be the same every life, and it's not always that. You know, you get a good life if you know how to work for it, and if you've earned money through working and through learning how to do things, then you can guarantee that in your next life you'll be okay, because you'll use that same intelligence to achieve that. And I think also the spirit would say, well, okay, you've earned huge amounts of money in this life, so you deserve to be born into a rich family because of that. And but then sometimes it can be deliberately putting you into a poor family, because the spirit matrix will know that you will actually work harder if you were starting off from the bottom and working your way up to the top. And I don't know, it's very, very complex, and you don't really know fully what you're going to get. I just know that the more people there are, the harder it is for the matrix to work these things out, hence why there needs to be a reduction in population. But anyway.